So just by kind of trusting the universe and following your instincts and your heart, and just, you know, knowing that everything is always happening for you and not against you, everything just materialized in the most amazing way. Easier than it would have been if it was going through the normal computer system. So yeah, we've got to trust. We've got to stay anchored in that 0 point and not get derailed emotionally, because a lot of people in those kind of situations, they start to think a lot, and then the body starts to react, and then they're feeling fear or some kind of other emotion that takes them out of that alignment and that coherence, and then the signal they're putting out into the world becomes frazzled. And if the signal's frazzled, then the world's going to show up in a frazzled way, and everything's going to be kind of, you know, weird or strange, or it's not going to be in flow, and it's just going to be disjointed.
All right, brother, we're back at it. I'm so grateful to see you again. It's been a long time, brother. Love you so much, and I'm so happy you're here and spending time with me today. So thank you. I pinned you down. You're traveling the world. I got you. I finally got you. Thanks for coming in, brother.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. It's been a while, and I know we've been chatting, you know, in the background, but it's good to finally be here on a call, man, getting to chat and see what unfolds. Deeply grateful, brother.
Yeah. I mean, it's a like-minded thing where we get into this stuff where you're like doing the do. You're traveling the world, changing people's lives, changing people's outlook on life, what is possible. And so you're going from country to country. How is it? How does that integrate for people? Because people are losing hopium. There's so much fear being pumped out into the system lately, and we see it through social media. How is that integrating for you and using star magic to really heal people completely?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like, you know, what's going on in the world and stuff they're pumping out, for me personally, I don't know, I kind of let it go over my head, let it kind of sail on past, you know. And I know there is a lot of people out there buying into, you know, different ploys and tactics, but that's just because they don't know any better. You know, they're still playing around in the programs, you know, getting old wounds triggered, you know, and that brings up stuff, and they fall back into the matrix, you know. For me personally, like traveling and working with people, yeah, there's just so much transformation going on as normal. I mean, the last big retreat we did, well, actually we did a plant medicine retreat, ended last week in Holland, 10-dayer. But before that, we did a 10-dayer in Costa Rica, 3-day group healing, 2 days Be Superhuman, 1 day Q&A, and then 3 days of plant medicine. And I actually just got the video back, a 24-minute kind of video from our video guys today. I watched it, and it's unbelievable, man. Like some of the transformation that took place. It was, I mean, we had a 95-year-old guy that came, you know, in a wheelchair with his daughter. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't walk. He had gout in his fingers, gout in his toes, like they were swollen like crazy. And I think it was after like day 2 or 3, he got out from his wheelchair. All his lungs were clear. He could breathe properly. You know, he was just sort of, you know, a 95-year-old guy he looked rough, you know, and it was like 20 years had come off him. And I was watching the video today. I kind of forgotten about it, but you know, watching the video, I was kind of tearing up today with one of our video guys when he was showing me, and it was just magical. You know, the transformations are still taking place. You know, the real ones are still doing the work. You know, the sheep are still getting lost and played. And I think it's just the same old, you know, like it's a different day or same day, different week. I mean, I think what I'm really noticing at the moment is the people that are really doing the work, they're really ready for next year. Like this is the year of the snake, and everyone's been shedding all of that old stuff. You know, I was sharing with you that I finished a relationship this year, and it's been a magical thing. Like so much growth has happened in my life since. because I've been backing my own energy, and the things that aren't really there to serve us are getting stripped away. So we can actually grow and do the work. The distractions are falling away. The old people, businesses, like just circumstances, different things that are in people's lives, old patterns, old habits, they're just getting dissolved and obliterated so that people can rise into 2026. And I feel, this is the year of the horse as well, which is my Chinese birth year. So it's also a year 10, which is a 1. And it feels for me like we're going into a complete new beginning. Like I feel like a complete new human coming up to the end of this year. And a lot of people that I'm kind of working with, they're feeling the same. I'm just so excited about next year. Like I can't wait to get into next year. I just feel that there's so much is going to happen. The energy is going to be so high. But if you haven't done the work and shed your skin this year, you're going to get smashed going into 2026. But if you've done the work and you've, alchemized those shadows, I think 2026 is going to be an absolutely phenomenal year for you, whoever you are.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, we kind of always cover it within Taoism. We remind people you are everything. You are every animal. So you morph into the most potent part of that experience. So, my daughter is a horse. She's fiery. You're like, whoa. And, it's just part of integrating into the system another facet of self, another iteration of self. And it is exciting. There's really another, when you talk about a 10, it's like a start over. Within Taoism, we just return to 9. We go right back to completion, birth. So it's like a birth, completion, then rebirth. It's always the same. We're always in that place of transformation. And it is, you can feel that magnetic, unanimous sort of like excitement that's coming with the birth of a new experience, a new dawn. But I'm also hearing a lot of chatter where people are, really pounding the idea that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a rough one. And, I tend to sit in the back seat and observe. Whereas, a lot of my teachers are quite clear. The stream is going to be solid. It's going to be wide. And you're going to really, as you said, if you're ready, if you've done the work, you are going to blow up, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. I feel like it's the energy is going to be so strong this year, so potent, and it's going to meet you where you're at. So if you've done the work and you're a clear channel, you're open, you're in a great space, mentally focused, emotionally stable, your nervous system is balanced and safe, then you're just going to soar like a phoenix, into a new dimensional field or multitude of new dimensional fields. And if you've not done the work, I think the energy is going to come in and pull you down. I don't feel and no one's going to stay stagnant next year. But this isn't like a year for mediocrity. There is no mediocrity. If you're trying to play at a mediocre level, you're going to get smashed into the ground. And if you're in that good space, you're going to rise. Yeah, it's going to be like a sink or swim year. But everybody gets to choose whether which experience they want to have.
Yeah. I've been noticing your media rise within social media, and you're letting more people into what you're experiencing, what you're going through, what you're sharing with the world. And I noticed that people are not integrating enough of the body. Like ownership of embodiment is to be able to expand into it. And how you take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, which ultimately is the jewel of your spiritual emanation. That is so inspiring, what you're doing within a gym setting, within that. What about like nutrition? How do you apply that? And what does that mean to you for your own journey?
Yeah, I mean, nutrition is something that's taken me a long time to figure it out, I mean, I went vegan for 6 years and that just obliterated my body. You know, got really weak on it. You know, I was great for a year, but then I just started getting skinny. My strength was going, my speed, my stamina, my mental focus. It all deteriorated for me, and so I went back to eating meat. I mean, I feel like I've got it locked in there. Like, I'll eat steak and fruit, pretty much that. Sometimes, like if I'm on the go, maybe a few nuts here and there, you know, a bit of chicken, eggs. But generally, I'll be having like red meat, like, you know, like very, very rare, you know, like fillet, tomahawk, you know, and that's it. I'll just eat that, you know, just eat my steak in the sort of like earlier part of the day, which is for me 12 p.m. onwards, because I fast until 12. I'll kick the day off with some pineapple or some melon, or, you know, that's it really. And then just steak, finish eating at 6 o'clock and fast for 18 hours. And that's it. Today was a little bit different because I had a busy day today. I was in the gym this morning and I had a lot of paperwork to do. And that's why I'm in Brazil, like, you know, doing some business stuff. And I didn't eat anything all day. I fasted until about 9 o'clock this evening. So before I came on here with you, I was doing a podcast for 2 hours down the road. Came out of there, and what I had was an acai bowl, just fruit, with some protein powder. And that's all I've eaten today, and that's all I'll eat now until tomorrow. So I've just eaten once. So it's a real good fast. You know, my energy's through the roof because I've not really eaten much. My brain is like laser locked in. But sometimes there are the odd days like that. But generally, you know, intermittent fasting, eating a 6-hour window, hydrate all day, and once a week do a 24-hour fast, once a month a 48-hour fast, and either once or twice a year a 5-day fast. You know, and that's good. There's some supplements that I take, you know, and yeah, but just simple, man. I think we try and vary our foods too much. A lot of people think, oh, it's boring, I've eaten that today, I don't want to eat that again tomorrow. For me, I don't care. I see my body as a machine, and if it fuels me, if my muscles, my ligaments, my brain, like everything's in order, then I'm just going to give my body what it needs, like an engine, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing because I think people are misguided. Like I get a lot of students that have become very inverted, where they absorb their potency as a clairvoyant medium channel, yet they don't own the body. So that needle that moves to a large aspect of a polarizing yin, instead of maximizing the convergence of yin and yang, their body shows it. Their body becomes unraveled. The body becomes destructive. The body does not hold the charge that's necessary for them to own that in this space. And so when you start changing things, you get very big tweaks quickly. You change. You know, it's like someone like yourself always stays lean. You probably need a little bit more fat in, whenever you want to, because you are super lean. It doesn't take much. And just the way that you're able to switch in between glucose and ketones, your body's very efficient with the exercise and everything else that you do. It makes it optimal. But most people are either too trashed and they don't eat the right food. They stick to an American or Western diet that really, it pollutes everything, man. And then they start to notice it because their body shows the staggered effects of that diminished return, where they're just eating so much shit that their body just can't function optimally. The mitochondria is not firing off the way it should. Do you recommend that when you're teaching people this type of like cultivational practice, or do you just sort of wait until they come to you?
You mean with the nutrition?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's an integral part of the jigsaw puzzle, you know. So we have the Star Magic lifestyle, or what we call the Be Superhuman lifestyle. So you wake up in the morning, cold showers, breath work, gym, you know, whether it's running, boxing, weights, you know, varying that sort of stuff in the mornings. and then come back and, you know, switch your phone on at midday, have your first food. And normally that will be urine, you know, collecting your urine in the morning, then drinking your first lot of urine at 12, then have some fruit, maybe some supplements, and then, you know, you get into your day, and then that might be a little bit more breath work. You know, obviously you've got stuff you got to do in your business, whatever you create or whatever you do for a job. And then, you know, in the afternoon, evening time, you know, for me, it's steak, you know, getting a good kilo or more of steak into my body, and maybe a protein drink as well, you know, and then and maybe some creatine, and you know, then just kind of like knock it on the head, just water all through the evening. And then obviously, you know, we do headstands. We have cold showers in the evening. You know, there's all these different things part of our protocol, but nutrition is in there, you know, and not everybody needs to eat the same. I mean, I'm saying I eat fruit and meat, but not everybody, you know, does well off that. Some people might need some different things. But once you get into the routine of it, you know, fruit and meat, it works. I mean, I know some people that do really well off just fruit. You know, I know some people that will do well off, you know, incorporating rice and things like that into their diet. But for me, it doesn't work, you know. I think we're all a little bit different, you know. We've got a lot of clients in China and Japan. They all eat white rice. You know, for me, it clogs up my system. But, you know, we're all a little bit different. So I think when it comes to nutrition, you got to feel what your body needs. And there'll be times when you wake up and your body doesn't want something. And then the next day you really crave that thing. So listen to your body and give your body what it wants. You know, don't be dictated by some kind of diet plan. Don't be dictated by what worked for you last week, because it might not work the next week. So you just got to be feeling into it, being present with the food that you're eating. We always do grace. You know, we got a big long grace. It takes about 5 minutes where we thank all the animals and the farmers and the transport companies and the beings in the quantum and just our family and the abundance that we have to be able to sit and eat the meal together, you know. So going through that kind of ritual every single time and putting that good energy into the food, I mean, that makes a whole world of difference too, you know. Holding the water up to your heart.
How you doing, brother?
Amazing. We're back.
Yeah. You're too potent with the frequency, brother. You just melted out.
Hey, man, melted out the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So we're talking about the nutrition part. I personally make sure it's kind of mandatory that people recognize that, you know, the old expression, the body is a temple. Apply it, you know, and I think it optimizes your resonance and the energy production just goes way up. And I love the way you talk about just feeling into the food, feeling into what you need right now. But that's also a mastery. You know, I think a lot of people, when they come to us, they're starting with less than. They want to get heightened with their sense of self and their energy sensitivity. What do you do in a short term? I mean, crash course these people into something that meets where they're at, because I mean, the stuff you do is kind of transformative. You see people just like change within like minutes of meeting you. You know what I mean?
I mean, not everybody's ready for it, you know? And so, like you said, you got to meet people where they're at. I mean, for me, like your reality field is determined by the signal that you're carrying, you know, the frequency that you're holding. And this frequency right now is housed in your physical architecture. So if your physical body isn't strong, it isn't healthy, it isn't robust, then you're not going to be able to carry a high frequency signal, which means your external reality is going to respond in a certain way. So if someone is struggling with money, or they're struggling with their relationships or health, whatever it is, you know, they got to look internally and work out where their signal is not quite right. And, you know, we're electrical beings. Our nervous system is inside or our central nervous inside our spinal column. So working on your spinal column, your magic wand, making sure your nervous system is kind of optimized and balanced, and and in good shape means that the human being is going to feel safe and regulated. And if they feel safe and regulated, they can start to embody more frequency, embody more code. And then they're moving into a state of wholeness. And then from there, the external environment, it mirrors back that state of wholeness. So opportunities, relationships, all of these things start to come into the path of the human being that is on this beautiful frequency and putting out that great signal. And life just starts to flow. So having a strong physical body and being able to hold that frequency is mission critical. And obviously, you know, coming back to what we were saying before, like food, exercise, sleep, all of these things are important. Deep breathing consciously, you know, stripping out of your life anything that carries the wrong energy. And that could be from other people. It could be from things that you're watching on the internet or movies. It could be from people that still read newspapers and listen to the radio, just bombarding themselves with energetic patterns and codes that are just disharmonizing their system, you know. So, and chemicals in crap water, chemicals in the air. I mean, we get bombarded left, right, and center. So we've got to keep our frequency high so we can dismantle all of those energies that don't serve us before they get inside our body. You know, if our field is powerful, if our signal is strong, anything that comes into the vicinity of our field is going to get transmuted. It's going to get its ass whooped, and you know, it's going to dissolve in the space. So yeah, I mean, all these ingredients are important to create the right jigsaw puzzle and hold that frequency, man.
So let's get to it. You got a post on Instagram about manifestation. I had some crazy post on it. Tell me more about that. I don't know, which one is it? Where is it? There was like it was wild. I'm like, I want to know whatever the secret source is. It was, where is it? I don't know whether you remember this one. You're always posting stuff, but where is it? Okay. It was a manifesting something about I manifested how to show you how to manifest $120 million. What was that about?
Yeah, so in January, we're launching a new workshop called Manifestation 888. And Manifestation 888 is a 3-day online workshop where I'm going to share a blueprint of exactly the protocols that I use personally to manifest. So with these protocols, we brought in $150 million in 21 days. And
you got to tell me the story, brother. Got to tell me the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that everyone has the potential to do. And one of the things that enabled me to kind of like go down this road was eliminating certain things from my life, because for me, like, I've always adopted the principles and the protocols, but one place and one arena in my life that has blindsided me so many times is love. Women. So I've been in some really interesting relationships. I was married for like 17 years. Then I was single for about a year or so. Then I was in another relationship for a couple of years, and then almost bounced into another one for 6 years. And actually being single and in my own energy is what enabled me to lock in the last piece of the puzzle to bring this manifestation into play. Because there were things in my field that weren't, you know, conducive to me being able to hold the frequency of larger amounts of energy, which in this case happened to be money, resources to go out into the world and do what we needed to do with our healing centers and things like this. So yeah, it was a process of many things. But the most important thing that I found is you know, well, not actually, it's not the most important, but it's one of the most important things. And that is the circle of people that you've got around you 24/7, because you need to make sure your circle is tight, it's optimized, and everybody's energy and focus is right on that arrowhead. You know, you take draw back the arrow and you fire it, and the whole team has got to be, you know, aligned with the trajectory of that arrow and happy to move towards the target that it's headed towards. And if you've got even one person that's around that arrow when it's flying towards that target, they're like a cancer. Yeah. So if you don't eliminate that cancer, then it's going to eat the mission from the inside out. So bringing certain people out of my reality field was the final piece of the puzzle for me. Like I always look at life like humans are like hot air balloons, right? So the hot air balloon, the basket is on the ground, and you got all these sandbags, and the hot air balloon can't get off the ground because it's got these sandbags weighing it down. Well, the sandbags are your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, sometimes your children, sometimes your parents, sometimes your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, business partners, usually the people that are close to you. It's never the strangers. It's never the people that live down the road, because they're not having an impact on your immediate reality. It's the people that are close. So you've got to get a big sword and you've got to chop those ropes and let the sandbags go. And then the hot air balloon gets off the ground, and before you know it, you're flying through the sky. But most people aren't brave enough to do that. They'll hold on to the sandbags because it's the known. You know, the sandbags are their identity. And if you take a piece of someone's identity away, they start to panic, they start to go into fear, and they start to pull you back like crabs in a bucket. So you've just got to be ruthless. And for me, it's self-love, it's discipline. Like discipline is self-love. You're saying yes to yourself and no to everybody else. Not because you're being cruel, not because you don't care, but you just care a little bit more about yourself, and you want you want to be your very best version. If you're going to be able to serve humanity in the best way, you got to say no to lots of things and yes to you. And then by you being in your highest frequency, walking on your highest timeline, really enjoying what you're doing, by default, you naturally become of service to humanity. And this has come up a few times in the last couple of weeks. I was speaking to some of our team about it on our medicine retreat a couple of weeks back. And I was speaking to someone else today about it, actually, on a podcast earlier. But this thing about service, like I am in service to humanity, but is that my primary goal? If it is it correct to be my primary goal? Is it better for me to be of service to self? Now, some people would say, well, if I'm of service to self, then that's, you're being selfish, you're being egotistical, you don't care about other people. I actually don't agree with that. What I feel is if you serve yourself first and you do what you do because you absolutely love doing it, you're not doing it because you have to do it. You're not doing it for any other reason that you absolutely love it and it's your passion. You then start to rise within that passion and become very, very good. You start to master your craft. And then by default, people want to know how you do what you do. People want to learn from you, grow with you, get knowledge and wisdom. And then so you can start to share that stuff. And so naturally, by default, by you loving yourself and doing it because you absolutely have a deep love for it, you start to serve humanity. And I feel that is sustainable. If you go out into the world and you start to just serve people, you get a little bit disconnected. And if you look at a lot of healers, energy healers, psychics, card readers, I've met you a few times at the Conscious Life Expo, and I've been to loads of those kind of exhibitions and events around the world. And you go and speak to people that are, in the spiritual community. A lot of them aren't very healthy because they're in service and they're helping people because they feel that they need to serve and do God's work, maybe out of fear, maybe out of guilt, maybe because of some kind of self-worth or rejection issues. So what's happening is the service of work that they're putting out into the world is just, it's filling a hole in their own body. Instead of filling the hole in their own body first by filling themselves up with love and then going out into the world and letting their teacup flow into the saucer and give from the saucer. So it's like, back to front, how most people are doing it. But we got to flip it on its head, put ourselves first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, within Taoism, we have this thing called selfishness. From selfishness, you acquire selflessness through a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is what you perceive as your subjective identity. And when you throw that back into the wood chipper, the default starts to just bleed out. All finite mind and intellectual perception dissolves, and the natural order of things is servitude and selflessness. It comes without you having to manipulate it within your mind, within your personality. It's just a thing that is generated from your own commitment to cultivate and hold that charge, and that resonance just precedes everything that you do. It's phenomenal how the parallels of your teaching and the stuff that I teach it's amazing, because it is when someone sacrifices that sense of self, it's where you come up to the edge. And it's like, do you have the cojones to jump off? And most people will not, because that requires dissolution, that requires dissociation, that requires complete dissolving of what is perceived as identity. And that's when everything starts to flourish. That's when everything grows.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think the word sacrifice is important too. People say, well, you don't need to sacrifice anything. Why would you want to sacrifice and punish yourself? But actually, it's like an initiation. You know, what is it you're willing to give up to grow? What is it you're willing to let go of to let in some more light? What is it you're willing to shift so that you can, you know, move dimensional fields? You know, sacrifice for me is like where it's at. You know, I mean, I love like taking on challenges that are difficult, whether it's a run, whether it's climbing a mountain, whether it's just seeing how many push-ups I can do in a certain amount of time, or a bunch of burpees or something. You know, what can I do today to challenge myself that is going to be a little bit painful and take me right out of my comfort zone? You know, people don't like putting themselves into those situations because they're hard, but that's when you develop resilience. That's when you get that kind of staying power to be able to move through difficult circumstances. If you take yourself through difficult circumstances all the time, when difficult circumstances arise in your external reality, it's just like puff of smoke, it's gone, because you're used to it. But if people don't put themselves into challenging situations, when they come, it's like a rocket ship straight to the brain. It's like it overwhelms them, it smashes them, and they just don't know whether they're coming or going. And people get knocked to the floor and they don't get back up. But if you're used to getting back up on a regular basis, it's just like, okay, it's just another thing. Cool. You know, we'll just keep trucking, keep moving, you know? I mean, even a few days ago, I was in Amsterdam, and I woke up in the morning and my driver was there, and I had to go to the airport, and I was supposed to fly to Brazil. And I had a text message from my lawyer in Brazil saying, Jerry, don't come to Brazil because the paperwork got delivered, you know, a little bit late, and we've not prepared everything for you. And I kind of stood there, and I just got present and silent. And I was like, shall I go or shall I stay? I was like, just get on the plane and go. And, you know, if I hadn't have gone on the plane and gone, if I hadn't just have committed and trusted, so many things wouldn't have happened over the last few days. And because I committed, I was going there with no expectation, just pure presence and openness to what unfolded. All the things that I needed to do happened. Like I had to go and get like a new tax number for an identity. And what happened is, normally you've got to kind of apply for it, they email it out, and then it takes another day or so. But the whole system inside this government office, it kind of broke. So my lawyer went down to the office because he knew someone in there. So they just did it all manually for him by hand. And it was actually faster than it going through the normal process. So we were able to go in there and actually speed things up, even though I was told not to come because it would never happen. So just by kind of trusting the universe and following your instincts and your heart, and just, you know, knowing that everything is always happening for you and not against you. Everything just materialized in the most amazing way, easier than it would have been if it was going through the normal computer system. So yeah, we got to trust. We've got to stay anchored in that 0 point and not get derailed emotionally, because a lot of people in those kind of situations, they start to think a lot, and then the body starts to react, and then they're feeling fear or some kind of other emotion that takes them out of that alignment and that coherence, and then the signal they're putting out into the world becomes frazzled. And if the signal's frazzled, then the world's going to show up in a frazzled way, and everything's going to be kind of, you know, weird or strange, or it's not going to be in flow, and it's just going to be disjointed. But by anchoring that frequency like a Jedi, staying in that 0 point, the universe is just going to back you up. It tested you. You didn't get shifted by the test. You just stayed alchemized. So the universe is like, okay, cool. We'll help him a little bit now. You know, we tried to fuck him up, and it didn't budge him. So now let's give him some support. You know, it's the peak and the trough on the wave. You know, the ebb and the flow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, because it's like people do not battle test any of the shit. They don't do it. So it's like you need to shit or get off the pot in any circumstance. You know, I'll get a call from a student, a client, whatever. I'll be on the phone. I've got my 6 kids in the background in the minivan. I got my wife, and they're like, holy shit. How is it that you're running juice through me and I'm an amplified level of AF at a high tune, yet you've literally got a circus in the background that's going crazy, and I'm having a full body arousal because it doesn't faze me. Fearlessness is a component that you're very familiar with, and you cannot fake that. You, my dear friend, have to have that, and have had that for so long. And that's that commitment that goes beyond a construct of some emotional sort of variable. When the shit hits the fan, the convergence of past, present, and future are now. And that's how people are able to arrive at, you know, levels of star magic where people are experiencing healings instantaneously. This has nothing to do with whether you're calling in your angels and sitting in the lotus position and singing Kumbaya with 3 incense. It's now. It goes beyond identity. It goes beyond anything formed in a material state. Yet that resonance is commandeering and making the material pliable and manipulatable, and to a place where you can alter the material at will. And that's just a phenomenal place. But people, they get fragile. They're fragile. They get too soft and prickly. So they have the back and forth between the symbiosis of yin and yang. They can't find their center point, and they just crumble. And this is part of conditioning themselves back into their own system so that they can handle that integration of the body as that avatar, that anchor that's able to use that centric sort of state of consciousness through that vehicle to alchemize things in this material state. I think it's phenomenal, brother.
100%. Yeah, and it just comes back to the physical again, you know, because like you said, this is the vessel. This is what everything's housed inside. It's the interface with other humans. It's the interface with animals, the interface with everything. And so if we're not looking after it, how are we supposed to show up properly, you know? This is a topic that's been coming up a lot recently is like combat. You know, I mean, anyone that's been in combat, whether it's military or they've been in the boxing ring or the octagon or whatever it is, maybe they've done Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, but anyone that's fought another man or another woman is always very humble. And they don't want to get into a fight because they know that a fight can turn messy really quickly, and, you know, things can go really, really wrong. So someone that is in combat sports and has fought generally carries themselves in a different way with a different frequency and a different resonance. And people generally don't kind of bother those kind of people because they're carrying that warrior god, that warrior goddess frequency. The other thing with the combat sports is it teaches discipline, you know, big time. And so when you carry that kind of discipline that you need to be a fighter, you know, all these other things in life, they just slot into place. You know, you've got the discipline, you show up on time, you go to bed early, you've got a task to do, so you go and complete it. Or if you've got a series of tasks, you just knock them over like dominoes and then go on to whatever it is next. And so life becomes a lot more structured. But within that structure and within that discipline, you create freedom, as well as being extremely healthy and sharp and strong and calm. You know, there's all of these traits that go around, you know, being a fighter or someone in combat sports or combat in general. But the way that the world has been for a while, it's trying to strip men of that. It's trying to emasculate men and, you know, sedate men, take away their testosterone, you know, make them, turn them into masturbators, turn them into sex addicts, turn them into weak keyboard warriors that have forgot that they're actually hunter-gatherers that are there to protect the kingdom, that are there to protect the queen, the family, the children, the elderly, you know, the community. And so I feel that we'd solve a lot of issues if we got this hunter-gatherer mindset back, this disciplined, structured approach where men remembered that they were men, that they were savage, that they were lions, that they're dangerous, but they've got it under manners and under lock, but they keep it inside of themselves in case they ever need to bring it out. So a real fighter can switch at the drop of the hat and turn it on. And that's how all men should be. And so if we could reintroduce to children, make it compulsory that they had to do some kind of combat sports at an early age, teach them how to fight, multiple disciplines, teach them how to read their body and teach them how to breathe, then you're going to have a whole new species of children. You know, just those three things, that trinity, breath work, read the body, and fighting. You've got absolutely everything encompassed within that to create an absolutely phenomenal species. You know, and you'd solve so many problems. Relationships would be better. People would be healthy. Money would flow. People would build great businesses. There would be, I wouldn't say there'd be no problems, but there'll be a lot less.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, you look at natural born healers that are fighters. They really are, because, you know, you understand, for me, hobbies past, not something that I've contended with for many, many decades, but you smell it, you taste it before it even happens, and you find for within Taoist alchemy and magic, we spirit project, and you find the weakest link within the system. And so that organ is then the most largest space that you attack from a spiritual level. You don't even have to touch the body. But if you do, you want to break whatever is necessary within the field, especially if someone is a martial artist that may be conditioning their auric field. So there's 3 layers of penetration when people do like iron fist training and that type of like conditioning, where they're bracing for impact, and through that energy potential, you have to strike their field at 3 times in the same spot to break the energy, because they were already trained in that sense of protection, which is sort of problematic. But the truth is, you can read a book front to back, because that person who's normally engaging in some type of physical combative sort of scenario is the most afraid, because, you know, anyone that truly understands and is more than familiar with who they are and knows who they are they're never looking for it. They're the ones that are unassuming, that are the most potent when it comes to them expanding their own energy. If they had to apply it, that it is a really different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame. You're not going to be concerned with someone barking and yapping like a dog. They're the ones that are dealing with their own fear that's bringing them to a point where they feel as though they have no other alternative than to attack and react. And this is someone who hasn't trained very deeply into their own alchemy, and they show it just by their response. It's the unassuming person that the needle doesn't move, which is the most potent when it comes to what their potential is in relation to combat, and then what they actually do, because they're the ones that you want to move away from, because you can feel their expansive energy. They've already engulfed the field of their target because of the potency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, I feel like those kind of like souls are the people that you want in your team. They're the people that you want in your corner. I think the people that will move away from them are the people that can't hold the resonance of that energy they're putting out. So it's like when you get two magnets and one pushes the other one away. You know, you have that strong soul with that beautiful energy, which is potent, and they could just be sat there at a chair in the corner, but people will give them a 10-meter radius, so they'll walk around and they won't go near them because they just don't know how to enter their field. They might look dangerous, they might look scary, but it's just the field of energy that they're putting out. They could be the loveliest, gentlest, kindest human beings on planet Earth, and they probably are. But they carry that rock solid, locked and loaded frequency, which scares the crap out of people that don't know how to be like that or hold that kind of energetic template. So they just push each other apart. But the one that's holding the strong one would welcome the other one in and be like, hey, come and give us a hug, bro. But it's just that the other person, they can't move into that field because they're not vibrating high enough or at a certain templated frequency that allows them into that space. They're just getting pushed away.
Yeah. I mean, it's the rubber meets the road. And, you know, when you pump out the resonance, like the resonance you pump out, people are conflicted. They find themselves at a crossroads if they haven't sorted themselves, or they're not mastered their own energy potential. Your resonance will make them confront themselves. They're looking back at the mirror and things are broken. There are pieces missing, and they have to contend with that. And so the general reaction is, it's you're the problem. I can't handle the energy. It's just as simple as that. It's part of the dualistic experience. And this happens to me quite often, because they're either in or they're out. They're either in love with you or they're out of love with you. But it's just a matter of their own ability to regulate and integrate what it is that's being pumped out.
Yeah, I feel that, you know, humans should just be in love. They should just be in love with all the things that are taking place. And I suppose being in acceptance of everything, which, you know, for me, acceptance, love is kind of the same thing in a way. And if people are projecting externally into the space, then obviously they've got unhealed wounds. And they're not vibrating on that frequency of love, which is okay if that's where they're at. But you always know, you know, where someone is at because of the way that they respond or react to a certain situation. You know, we were talking about this before. You know, it was my son's birthday. Well, it's actually his birthday in a couple of days, but we were in Holland together. I'm not going to see him on his birthday. He's going to be in Romania. I'm going to be in Australia because I'm flying there tomorrow. I'm actually going to be in the air on his birthday. So I wanted to take him out and buy him something. And I was asking, what could I get as his 21st birthday present, which would be really, you know, kind of solid for him. And so I wanted to get him a watch. So me and the guys, we said to him, listen, we're going to go out tomorrow morning. We can't tell you where we're going, but, you know, just be ready at 10:30. So we ended up walking through Amsterdam. We'd phone this watch shop to see if they had a few in stock, and we ended up going down there. We videoed the whole thing, videoed the experience, his face. He was buzzing, over the moon, and we put a little video up about it, you know. And it's interesting. People are like, "What, you know? You're supposed to be spiritual. You're supposed to be building healing centers. You're supposed to be doing this and supposed to be doing that. Why are you making videos with nice cars and watches?" It doesn't feel very resonant to me, you know. And there's other people saying, "Wow, it's amazing to see you guys operating like that and taking care of each other." You know, like you can really see it's like kings and queens. And then you have the other side of the coin that just judge that situation. You know, you should be spiritual. You shouldn't be spending money on these material things, you know. And so the people that kind of look at it and think, "Wow, that's really cool," but they're resonating with that because they can hold that kind of frequency. The people that look at it and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this and that," is because they can't hold that frequency. So they're reacting. The first one responds, the second one reacts, and there's a big difference. One's in the head and one's in the heart. And when you're vibrating up here, you're always going to be a little bit distorted and mangled. And when you're down here, you're going to be balanced and calm. Again, it's just a choice. You've got a 0.25 second window between stimulus and response up here, and here you've got all the time in the world. You know, you've got much more space. So it's interesting kind of observing all of this stuff, you know. Love it.
Yeah, it's a real test. Ground control, we have a problem. You're showing people parts of themselves that they don't want to look at. The idea of abundance being limitless, infinite, and that potential is not a requirement. It's a Tao given right for all of us, and that comes from integrating and finding moments like the ones that you share, so personal, so intimate, but unconditional. All band-aids are ripped off. You're just being raw, and you're sharing a part of your life that I would dare any of the keyboard warriors to go and do that themselves, because they don't have it in them, because they're not holding the resonance. Just as you said, just as we've been talking about, it's like, can you maintain that charge? And that's where you want to rev up this avatar and really enrich it so it can maintain the charge, hold it, exceed it, and just pump it out for others to connect with that.
Yeah, and then that's the thing as well. We're all connected. Like nothing is disconnected. Everything is interconnected. So if you carry a high resonance, you know, everybody in the field can plug into that and rise up. Or they can get triggered by that and run from the resonance, move away from the field and judge the field, and then, you know, drop down even lower. You know, so again, in like all of these situations, we all get choices to elevate and expand, or to go down and contract. And, you know, for me, in any kind of situation, if I can grow in some way, shape, or form, I'm all over it like white on rice. You know, if someone knows something and I'm like, wow, that guy's got some knowledge, I want to talk to him. I need to soak up and absorb whatever it is that is going on in his field, because I know that there's some pieces, puzzle pieces that I don't have that he's remembered or she's remembered. So I'm in there, you know. And I've never really been any different, you know, and I try and encourage that in my children. I try and encourage that in anyone that I'm with, really. You know, if someone, you know, is there in your field, like, learn from them. You know, like, we can all learn something or remember something from every single human. I don't care who it is on planet Earth. Like, it could be, you know, someone that has like a janitor in a school, you know, and you end up bumping into them in the corridor. Stop and chat for a few minutes. I bet you they got some wisdom that they could share with you, you know. Some people might walk past, oh, they're a janitor in a school, I'm not going to talk to them. There are some people that have that kind of frame of mind. But when you understand this cosmic game, you realize that we're all kind of stitches. We're all like pieces of a pattern on some big cosmic tapestry, and all of these bits of the tapestry are integral, and not everybody has remembered every single piece. So whoever you bump into, there's going to be something that they can share with you that's going to elevate you. So, you know, sit down, suck it up, and enjoy the process. And if anything ever goes wrong in your life, did it really go wrong? It might not have gone how you thought it was supposed to go, but maybe it was supposed to go like that so you could learn something, a valuable lesson. So try and always mine that gold from every situation. Try and always see everybody as valuable. Try and see, not valuable like, you know, it's not like you want to kind of, I don't know, extract something for the wrong reasons, but they carry a value. You know, they're important, they're special, they're unique, and they carry some codes that you're not carrying. So, you know, you go and give them some codes, and you get some codes in return. That's that interchange, that energetic exchange in every single interaction in life. Whether you're going to get your hair cut, buy some potatoes, go to the gym, you got to pay some money and you get something back. It's the same when you bump into a human being on the street. You've both got stuff that you're going to share with each other, whether you realize it or not. It's happening on an unconscious, subatomic, higher conscious level. It's just that most people can't.
That's the student is the teacher is the student. We call that in Taoism. Forever, your gift is your offering. Never to be misguided, always to be in that cycle, that symbiosis, that back and forth, that constant growth and expansion that comes with that unity. And, you know, we refer to that as the great bellows. Everything is contracting, expanding at the same time. All thing and nothing at the same time. And ultimately, everything is an iteration of self. Everything. And when you meet that janitor, you're just reminded of that softness, that kindness, that surrender that comes with someone that has chosen to be in a position where they are powerless, yet they are contributing. They are doing whatever they can do to meet what's necessary for them to survive and to be a part of that moment. And that's where the heart opens, it blossoms, and it just reaches out for more of that goodness, just like you said.
It's beautiful, man. Yeah.
It's simple.
It is simple. It's so simple. But we humans, we try and overcomplicate things. You know, we try and make it difficult on purpose. I don't think we want to, but we think it has to be more difficult. Like going and training yourself to be an athlete, or, you know, starting a business and making it a global phenomenon. Like, these things aren't rocket science. They just require puzzle pieces to be put into play, and the right frequency to be held, and the right team to help you, you know, make that mission, you know, a reality. There's simple little steps that you've got to take, but a lot of people get overwhelmed by looking at the big picture instead of taking one step. They try and get there too quickly and end up messing it all up. But patience is a superpower, you know. And so when you're patient and you're precise and you work the plan never fails, ever. And just coming back to that heart thing, you know, it's like the heart is your life compass. It always leads you in the direction of your dreams, but it also leads you sometimes through chaotic territory, because you need to be furnished with certain skills along the journey. So the heart will take you into unknown territory where it might be uncomfortable, but that's where you grow. So if you just keep following it, and you just keep trusting it, and you just keep taking action, even when your mind is like, nah, this isn't working, just trust and go for it. And it always works out every time, you know. And if it doesn't work out, as I said, the way you think it does, it's because you needed to just get that little bit of extra knowledge, get those extra tools. be held back a little bit, because if you'd have gone there now, it would have been too early and it wouldn't have been ready for you. So the universe is just slowing you up so you can get there at the right time. It's always working for you, man.
What are your thoughts on, people perceiving things as a main player and other people are NPCs within the experience? Is there any merit to that type of theory of reality?
I mean, there are some human beings on this planet that don't really do too much, and you could say that they're just stuck in the matrix and in the game just to kind of, make it a little bit interesting, but they still have a role and they still have a purpose. Everybody has a role and everyone has a purpose, otherwise they wouldn't be there. And we can't judge these NPCs, these non-playable characters. They might not do too much in terms of, bring too much value to the world in the way that we perceive value to be, but they bring an energy, they bring a color, they bring a frequency, they bring some kind of codes. And even if they're just hanging around, sitting in the park every day, maybe, begging for $20 or $30 just to get some food and just get through to the next day, they're adding value to something. And if they're not adding value in the way that we think we think value is, maybe they're teaching people lessons. Maybe they're there just to trigger a few rich and wealthy people that are walking through the park that want to comment on them. That they're this, that they're that they're begging, that they're no good. But that person that's sitting on the ground begging has always got a smile on their face. They're always happy. They don't give a shit. They just wake up and sleep and maybe have half a bottle of whiskey a day. Who knows? Who cares? But they're just doing their thing. And you could say they're a non-playable character. But if it wasn't for non-playable characters, life would be dull and boring, man. You need the jester. You need the joker. You need the fool. Look at a deck of cards, man. It's the joker that makes it a bit interesting. You need the jester in the castle, dressed up as in all these bright colors for some kind of entertainment. They spruce the place up. They bring a different energy, a playful energy. You need these different people. Sugar and spice and all things nice. Like, variety is the spice of life, We need them, brother.
Yeah, no. I think that's amazing. I mean, we have this thing in Taoism, we refer to it as like rhapsody, where we conjure the words and through the breath we imbue them to alter the material. And the way that we describe our perception goes beyond the imagination. Things are alive. Things are created and return to that holy stream when you emanate that resonance. It always puts me in that place where my teacher, Lutsu, was always transmitting what would be equivalent to poetry at a whole nother level. It's exciting when you fuse the words together and capture that. Your ability to describe things is so potent because people are there. When you speak on it, people can feel into it, and it becomes beyond the words. It's now a full body arousal. It's an experience. Can't make that shit up. That's just part of who you are. It's potent, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like we've all got a story to tell. And the more stories we tell and the more we can paint a picture, like you say, it brings people into the field of it. It's like the meditations that we do all the time, We're creating that visual, and the visual translates into a feeling, and the feeling translates back to a visual, and so you've got the auditorial message coming through at the same time. So you're slamming people from all these different angles and putting them into a bubble, into some kind of energetic container, some kind of space that is harmonizing in the quantum field out from nothing. But it feels just as real as being there. I can take someone through a portal to a castle in Alpha Centauri, and they can go and meet some multi-dimensional king, have a download, and it's realer than going and having dinner with their wife at home, you know? And they do that every single day and sit at the table. But you take them on some kind of multi-dimensional journey, and you put the right energy into it, and it becomes so visceral, so real, and it changes people, you know? So yeah, painting those pictures and taking them on those journeys, and you know, locking them into the frequency and the code on a physical, mental, emotional, multi-dimensional, spiritual level, all these different levels and more, you know, because when they're going out into the fields, they're not just plugging into one dimension or 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions. Their light body is spread across, you know, all 15 dimensions just in this matrix, and some are spreading out even more into other fields of operation. So they're actually downloading codes on a multi-dimensional level into so many different pieces of their architecture. People don't even realize how much they're shifting, you know, and it's these kind of like downloads and frequency upgrades at this kind of higher level of consciousness that creates the change. It bypasses the logical mind, it bypasses the conscious mind. You're going straight to the DNA, frequency code, light, boom. The shift is taking place. Just recoding people from the inside out. That's the magic, man. That's where it's at, you know.
Well, you know, it goes beyond words. It's the experience. It's an experience as well. It's like experiential moment is really all we have. That measurement of subjectivity that returns back to the absolute. And absolute truth is that universal unity where, you know, we all are reflections and iteration of self, and we know that. We return to that. And the abundance, the love, the unconditional state is the only thing that we need to stand with, to hold on to be that emanation. And then humanity starts to take a breath, a pause, slow down, smell the roses, feel into the next moment instead of being captured by reactionary, violent charges that come from whipped up psychological manipulation from other external exogenous forces. And that's when things get really, really cool. Where people like yourself are out there teaching people this stuff, how to remember who they are, and then implement it into this space that raises the potency of humanity, and it returns back to the cause, which is all is one, one is all. And all this other stuff is just noise that just fades out, bleeds out in the background. You take that moment now, you breathe it in, you hold it, you embody it, you emanate it as such. And that's your Tao given right, your return to self is now.
100%. It reminds me of something that always comes up. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. I mean, you can make it matter, or you can decide that it matters, and you can get all hung up on it, you know, and get a little bit stressed and think that it's important, or you can just kick back and say, you know what, it actually doesn't matter. I'm just gonna be here right now, and however it unfolds, and I'm just gonna go with the flow and just realize that we're in some kind of huge cosmic joke. You know, it is a joke. You know, it's a great big cosmic joke, and none of it matters. And if everyone can just kind of like just come back out of it a little bit and look back in and be like, you know what, it is a joke. You know what, it really doesn't matter. You know, everything would start to flow so much better. But we put so much like emphasis on the way that things should be that we kind of force things into some kind of mode of operation, or you know, we entangle ourselves with these acts. You know, there's all these different programs running, and we become the programs instead of just realizing if we just step back outside of the river can flow properly. You know, We often influence it by being inside of it. But the river, it doesn't need us. You know, we just got to get out the river and let it do what it's supposed to do. It's always going to find its way back to the ocean. You know, the river doesn't come to the traffic lights and think, do I need to go left? Do I need to go right? It just flows, man. It gets to a rock, it goes over, around to the other side, and it just ends up back in that one ocean of consciousness, back in love. But humans aren't like that. We think that we need to think our way through or out or into every situation. But if we just get out of the way, the situation is just going to unfold in the way that it was supposed to unfold anyway. And you never really could have influenced it. That's the thing. That's the magic. And that's where it becomes a joke, because on one hand, we're living in this holographic reality and none of it matters. You know, there's 99.99999% space and a little bit of something else. And also, we wake up every single day and, you know, we're creating things. I mean, we're on this podcast now. I mean, if nothing really mattered, what's the point of even being on here? But by having this conversation, we're just reminding ourselves again that nothing matters, and we're pointing other people that are watching it back to the 0 point so they can realize that it doesn't matter. And eventually, once everybody realizes it doesn't matter, we can just lapse into the 0 point, leave this planet and go somewhere else. You know? It's crazy, right?
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, the truth of it. Within Taoism, we refer to it as all rivers return back to the ocean. Always. Always. They're never lost. They don't need a GPS. It all flows back to the stream. And that's it. Get out of the way and be that present moment. Be everything, all things, and nothing at the same time.
Be the stream, be the river, be the fish in the river, be the waterfall at the end that goes into the lake, or whatever it is, you know. It's all part of the same stuff, you know.
So potent. So potent, brother. Look, I'm going to be, for the audience, you know, Jerry is all over the world, just like smashing it from one continent to the next. So I'm going to be mindful of him for this moment, because I know he's going to get up and go to another part. I mean, this is like 11, 12 o'clock your time, right? We're getting under close to midnight.
Yeah, just gone midnight, yeah.
Yeah. Brother, I can't thank you enough. I miss you. I'm glad that we're catching up, and we need to do this more often. And again, we're gonna make it happen soon, in person when it serves us, you know.
Yeah, bro. I mean, thanks for inviting me on again. It's brilliant to catch up and just have this kind of conversation and this kind of interaction. It's been a pleasure, man, as always, and just massive love, massive respect. And to everyone that's watching, you know, thank you for being here with us.
And I want everyone to go out. I'm going to have all of Jerry's social and interweb connections, so you can get him on social, you can get him on his website, get on his app, do all the things that he's offering. There's just so many ways that you can transform yourself through his teaching. Did you want to share anything else with the audience before we head off?
Just thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and just make sure that every single day of every single week, of every single month, and every single year, that you wake up and you go for it. You know, we're not on this planet for that long, so just make every second count. You know, just go for it. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Don't hold back, you know. Love, be kind, be courageous, be brave, and just get out there and do your thing. Showcase your talents and your gifts to the world. The world needs them, man.
Love that. Love that. So for the audience, I want to thank them. For you, brother, wholeheartedly, with love, I thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. And I'm your humble servant in seafood, Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.